We'll just pause to see whether it's a simple issue. Otherwise, we may have to suspend this. No, we should be streaming now. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor. Councillor Armstrong, do you have your hand up for a question?
No.
Okay.
No.
You've just hit an icon. We'll just ignore that little hand in the corner. Thank you.
I'll just lower that.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. I'm sorry, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
The next on the agenda. Certainly, I can do that for you, Councillor Piper. On page 69, 6.3, 22/15, the Young Stormwater Upgrade. Do we have a mover for the recommendation?
Move the recommendation.
Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Piper. Questions? Discussion? Yes, Councillor Stedmiller.
Just with this report, it talks about being done in 4 stages. Is this inclusive of all 4 stages, the $8.2 million, or stage 1, just for clarification? And secondly, just the length of this report, it doesn't appear to be very long for such a large amount of money. I thought it might have been a little bit more in depth.
Thank you, Councillor. So through you, Madam Mayor. The length of the report is somewhat attached to the work that has already been done as part of the plan, the concept design report. That's quite an extensive document that's already been approved by Council. This report, there is a substantive amount of work to come after this report. This report is merely to say, one, we agree to partner with the Department of Planning and Environment to seek the money. It is a state agency that can only apply for this money, but there is a co-contribution, and the co-contribution, as you will see on the second page of the report, we've identified 2 funding sources that approximate $1.6 million of the $2 million circa that we require to be part of this process, and the shortfall's 420. And as stipulated in the report and through the recommendation, I will look to avenues where we can seek that additional funding should it be required. There is a contingency in there. Yep. Through you, sorry, Councillor Stadmiller, you did have a second arm of that question with the 4 stages, and yes. I'd like to pass to the Director of Infrastructure to go through that nuance. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor. This is one of the 4 identified stages that was undertaken by the study. The reason why this particular proposal is before Council is that this is the one area that was identified that probably the ratios that the federal government looks at to approve funding would not work for this instance, and it is one of the stages. It is a significant body of work. There's a lot of work to be done, and it is also noteworthy that it is in the CBD of Young. So it is a complex project to deliver, and that is why the cost is $8 million. As the General Manager has alluded, there is a significant report identifying all of these 4 stages, and this is one of them. The second one that is underway at the moment is the detention basins.
Councillor Stadmiller, a further question?
From what I can gather, I think it's $1.2 million has come off the Millvale Road project. It'd be good for councillors, especially new councillors, to understand now what's not going to be completed on that Millvale Road project, because we don't particularly have a very good understanding as to what now won't be completed, whether that was prescribed in the first place, or what's actually occurred that we can now transfer those funds across. Would a report be forthcoming about that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, at the end of last year in November, we received a notification that Council was successful in securing $3.5 million worth of local road and community infrastructure grants. And through that, council staff put forward to council the roads that we were intending to apply to that funding. Wickham Lane was one of them, and the request from council was at the time to investigate rather addressing the flooding issue in Young rather than doing the works that still needs to be done on Wickham Lane. We will continue to source funding for Wickham Lane, but it was a request of council in November to seek to move these funds to doing the Young stormwater management, and that's what we've done here.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I don't believe that's correct. My understanding was the report was to come back to council detailing the work to be done on Millvale Road if the funds were to be used there versus the detention basin and stormwater issues. Now, if we have access to this quantum of money from the government, far be it from me to suggest we shouldn't use it and we should keep it on Millvale Road. But my memory of the motion to council was a report would be coming back this year detailing what work was to be done on Millvale Road, were the funds expended there versus the flooding issues.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Director?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we are continuing the works on Millvale Road itself. It is more Wickham Lane that we are using those funds. We saw it as an opportunity to address some long outstanding issues on Wickham Lane, and this opportunity presented itself after the council meeting in December, where the state has come to us and said only state can apply for this. So state and territories are the only that can apply for this. And this paper before council is for your consideration, because the opportunity of having co-funding of $6.1 million from a federal source is something that we wanted to present as a possible opportunity for council to consider.
Thank you, Director. One more question from you, Councillor Flannery, and then Councillor Armstrong.
Well, it's not one more question, Madam Mayor. We need to resolve. If there was a resolution of council, there needs to be another resolution to remove that. Otherwise, it has to stay on foot. Now, if there was a resolution of council for a report to come back, that needs to be dealt with. It's not a case of one more question. It's a case of due process.
Director?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we take note of that resolution and we will still bring a report back to council.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A question through you to the General Manager. What would be the likelihood of council being able to fund an $8.2 million project out of its general fund to overcome this long-standing flooding issue in the Young CBD if these grant funds were not available?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I would say very unlikely, given this, the current financial sustainability questions that I have put before council, and we continue to work through. At this point in time, there is no possibility in the foreseeable future to fund a project of this quantum from general fund.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. And I seem to recall we had quite a discussion last council about some of the funds not being used on Wickham Lane, but coming back to address the flooding in the CBD. And I think this program certainly works to address that. Councillor Armstrong, one last.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question to you through the General Manager. Mr. General Manager, in the council's advertised 10-year capital works program, which is made available to the rest of the world via the internet, our new website and the internet, is there any allowance, or is there any future works program for Wickham Lane? And I do note that when I had a read, I couldn't find anything, but I could certainly see something in regards to remediation of drainage issues and flooding in Woorowa Street. Can you please advise council whether there's ever been anything planned in the 10-year plan for Wickham Lane?
I would have to take that on notice unless I can pass through the director for that level of detail.
I'm happy to have that passed to whoever can answer the question.
At this stage, the current 10-year plan does not identify specifically Wickham Lane as a line item in the capital works. these funds that we get, like the local road community infrastructure program, the state determines what money we will get, and once they give us the amount of money, we then go through our works programs and our prioritised roads to see what would qualify for this project. We don't know year on year how much they are going to be providing. We only know that this year we have got around $3.5 million, and we then are able, under the guidelines of that funding, to nominate roads that we want to have done.
And
Thank you.
Councillor Flannery, and then I think that might.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Given the financial situation, can we apply for a grant without actually being aware of where the $420,000 shortfall is coming from? And don't we need to make either vote funds or borrow money for that shortfall?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I feel confident that we can draw down a loan should we need to. However, that is a process. I'm confident, as per the motion, that we can identify that loan funding would be available of this magnitude for this project.
Thank you, General Manager. I think we've had plenty of discussion. Stedman?
He's moved the motion to put.
Pardon me, everybody. I'm still on the learning page here.
Through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Stadmiller did raise his hand to ask a question. However, Councillor Hewson has moved that the matter be put. So if there is a seconder for that motion, we then move to put the motion. Councillor Armstrong has seconded that motion. So Madam Mayor,
we move the motion be put. All those in favour?
1, 2, 3. So raise it was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. To put the motion has been passed, so therefore we will now put the motion to vote.
I beg your pardon?
Now you put the motion. Put the motion. Who's in? Those in favour?
Favour?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. The next 6.4, 22/16. It's the Hilltops Council Audit Risk and Improvement Committee endorsement and councillor representation. Mr. General Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Audit and Risk and Improvement Committee is a very important committee. I'd say it is one of the most essential committees, and certainly you would have seen through the risk engagement and internal audit for local councils document the emphasis that is being now placed upon the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee. At this juncture, the report before you just endorses that we have such a committee. It is a legislative requirement to have a committee. Call for the 2 councillor nominations. However, one of those must be the Mayor, so I apologise that is poorly worded. I will say at this juncture, every councillor can attend, not only the Audit Risk Improvement Committee, but any committee. Call for a review of the Audit Risk and Community Improvement Committee Charter. That is to afford us the opportunity to align it with the recommendations and guidelines in that risk management and internal audit report, and also then call for independent nominations for consideration by council. So at this juncture, one of those councillors will be the Mayor, and it's open now to.
I'd like to move the motion, please, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. A seconder?
I'll move that Councillor Armstrong be one of the nominations.
Councillor Armstrong, do you accept that nomination?
I most respectfully decline.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong.
Is there a seconder?
Is there a seconder?
For the
motion. For this motion in front of us. Seconder? Councillor Fitzgerald.
So now, Through you, Madam Mayor, a call for, I suppose at this point, just a show of hands on any councillor who would be interested in being the representative on the Audit Risk Improvement Committee. We have Councillor Mackie, and we have no other nominations at this point, so therefore that forms part of the motion. You can now put the motion, Madam Mayor.
All right, the motion is to, here we go, Ms. Holler?
Yes.
The council endorse the Hilltops Council Audit Risk and Advisory Committee. Representation on the committee be Mayor Rolls and Councillor Mackie. Call for a review of the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee Charter and call for independent nominations for consideration by council.
Those in favour?
It's been moved. So those in favour?
1, 2, 3. That is unanimous, Madam Mayor.
Unanimous. Thank you, councillors.
Local Traffic Committee.
We move on to 6.5, 22/17, Hilltops Council Local Traffic Advisory Committee endorsement and council representation. Mr. General Manager, do you wish to speak to this, or the Director of Infrastructure?
I think I might pass to the Director of Infrastructure for the roads to give a bit of brief history of it. However, you might like to ask for people to move and second the motion if so be.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Can I have someone to move? Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald, and seconded by Councillor Stadmiller. Thank you, Director.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the Local Traffic and Advisory Committee is a committee of council as well as representation from the police and Transport for New South Wales. What we're seeking is 2 nominations for a councillor, and there's only 1 vote. So in the business paper that you have before you, you can see the voting members. And how the Traffic Committee has worked previously is that you have a chair that is elected at that meeting. So if both councillors are present, they elect a chair, and the chair will then have the voting rights, and the other councillor will be an alternate to that. And that's what the paper is calling for, is 2 nominations.
Thank you, Director. Now, I'll call for nominations from councillors who would be interested in joining the Traffic Committee. We have one from Councillor Fitzgerald, another nomination. Traffic Committee.
Tony Hewson.
And Councillor Tony Hewson. So thank you, councillors.
That's it. No. You put it now.
Done. Oh, we'll put it to the, I better put it, hadn't I? To accept motion. All those in favour?
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Well,
Meeting.
thank you. And that is the last.
Madam Mayor, just a question in relation to the community engagement strategy. I note that part of the commentary was that consideration of
Councillor Flannery, I think we have moved on from there.
Yeah, we need to close the
So
meeting.
we need to close the meeting, and then perhaps there might be questions afterwards. But at 2:28, lady councillors, we will close this extraordinary meeting. Thank you.
Close it.